Hello, and welcome to the League of Women Voters of Portland's Voter Forum for candidates for election to the 2nd District of the Multnomah County Commission. I'm Molly Keating, member of the Portland League and the moderator for this forum. The League is a nonpartisan organization dedicated to making democracy work. We believe democracy works best when voters are informed about issues and engaged in their communities. We are presenting this forum to give eligible voters the opportunity to learn more about these candidates. We're grateful for support from the Carol and Velma Sailing Foundation, the Weiss Foundation, the League of Women Voters of Portland Education Fund, and our media partner, Metro East Community Media. The 2nd District of the Multnomah County Commission encompasses North and Northeast Portland, north of Interstate 84. All candidates for this nomination were invited to participate in this voter forum. 5 candidates accepted and are here today for this forum: Sam Adams, Jesse Burke, Nick Hara, Dr. Carlos Germain Richard, and Shannon Singleton. Welcome, candidates, and thank you for participating. Under the voter forum protocol agreed to by the speakers for this event, each of the speakers will give a 2-minute opening statement, followed by questions we have prepared based upon League positions and League members' interest, and each speaker will have a 2-minute closing. Each speaker will have up to 60 seconds to answer each question. The candidates have previously agreed in writing to comply with these time rules and other requirements. To determine the order in which the candidates will present their opening and closing statements and answer questions, we used the Secretary of State's current and previous official candidate random alphabets drawn in every election cycle. Ms. Burke will give the first opening statement. Ms. Burke, please proceed.
Thank you for having me. My name is Jessie Burke again, and I'm one of the owners of the Society Hotel with locations in Old Town and Bingen, Washington. I'm the granddaughter of a Chinese immigrant, the daughter of a man who was paralyzed when I was 6 years old. I grew up very poor, and my mother cleaned houses for a living. When we were young, we were told that we all had to become good at something if we wanted to get out of poverty. And so my parents put us all into different sports. Mine was fencing, which is fairly obscure. But I did well. And I went on to serve as a member of the United States fencing team for 10 years. I'm a mother, a small business owner, and I've lost a brother-in-law to an overdose. I'm trained as a teacher. And I worked with high-risk children. I worked as a social worker at the Native American Youth and Family Center and received my master's in public administration. Ultimately, I went on to work in private sector for these last 15 years. And I've worked ground floor, front-facing all day, every day, and have been at work every day of the pandemic. I've been endorsed by all first responders, from Portland firefighters to law enforcement and other Multnomah County commissioners, because I understand the issues intimately and have worked tirelessly to help with policy and restoring tools that will allow them to do their jobs effectively. It's a skill to be able to create an idea, make a plan, formulate the budget, and implement that plan. And I've successfully done this for over 15 years. And we need to do this with urgency. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Adams, your opening.
Hi, thank you for having us. My name's Sam Adams, and I'm running because too often the decision-making at Multnomah County lacks focus, urgency, good partnerships, and accountability. I offer a track record of bringing people together to successfully tackle often controversial and tough issues with a record of success. I'm running to address homelessness, to address the issues of drug addiction, mental illness. I'm running to address the issues that plague the county government and make it dysfunctional. So in this race, I have pointed out that the current chair and previous chairs have blocked the ability of county commissioners to put items on the agenda which makes it very difficult for them to do their business, for the public to and the commissioners to provide oversight of what the executive, the chair, is doing. That's an example of the kind of, and the county, unlike other large counties up and down the West Coast, unlike the city of Portland, Metro, state government, federal government, Multnomah County has no registration for special interest lobbying. We don't know who their clients are. We don't know who they're meeting. We don't know what they're discussing. There are some core problems with the county that need to be addressed so that we can move more swiftly and more effectively on the issues that and the problems that this community faces. And I know we'll get into the issues more deeply in a minute. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Richard, your opening.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here this afternoon with the League of Women Voters. I'm Dr. Carlos Richard. I was born and raised in Northeast Portland and have lived here all of my life. I currently live in the home that my great-grandmother and great-grandfather bought when they came to Portland from Mississippi in 1944. I have strong roots. I have a very strong foundation here in Northeast Portland. My priorities: homelessness, mental health crisis, drug addiction, also community safety and livability. My wife and I were in downtown Portland this past Sunday, and it pained me, seriously pained me that a lot of businesses are gone and they're not coming back. It also hurts my heart when individuals are afraid to take their kids to a park, to have family outings, because we have not addressed the issues around community safety and livability. I'm running because I believe I'm the candidate that has the most experience. Over 27, nearly 28 years of experience on the front lines, serving individuals who are homeless, serving individuals who have no shelter, serving families and individuals who are experiencing poverty, serving families and individuals who are doing their best to make ends meet with not enough ends. On the vanguard and on the front line of trying to help families decide what is best for them, using their voice and using their own mind, and letting those individuals be a part of that decision-making process. So I'm running because I believe I have some solutions, and I want to collaborate with individuals so that we can ensure that we get this community back to the place that it once was. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Ms. Shahara, your opening.
Yeah, thank you for having me, first of all. My name's Nick, and I'm running for Multnomah County Commission. You know, I've worked in the data space for 15 some odd years, doing different various types of actually using data in crisis response. And something I was sort of thinking about as we were getting ready for this is a joke that we actually used to tell, which is that there are two types of people in the world: those that can extrapolate from missing data. And I think that we're really struggling right now with that concept of missing data. We have this idea of what we think the crisis is here in Multnomah. We have this idea of what we're going to do, but we're missing that bigger vision. We are facing systemic problems, crisis of livability, crisis of government trust, and the coming climate crisis, which many say is already here if you count the heat dome. And the way that you tackle these crises is by being prepared. We have been in a constant state of reactiveness, and we have the opportunity in this election to shift from that reactiveness to preparedness. What does a prepared and thriving Multnomah look like? How do we move from that state of constantly looking in front of us to moving to that next state where we are ready for the next thing? And with my experience working with organizations like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's campaign, with the United Nations, and as a citizen volunteering on things like hurricane response, I see how we can move from preparedness to, or from reactiveness to preparedness. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hara. Ms. Singleton, your opening.
Thank you. Shannon Singleton, and I'm running for Multnomah County District 2 because I believe I'm the only candidate with the experience, both professional and personal, to hit the ground and get some things executed immediately to really transform the way that the county is responding to some of our top crises. I was born and raised in Philadelphia and did my undergrad in social work at Temple University. Later coming to Portland in 2007, where I have worked on the front lines, not only around homelessness and housing, but also as a trained clinician, providing behavioral health services to our folks who are stuck sleeping outside or who require transitional housing and need those ongoing supports. My top issues and priorities for the county are, of course, the housing and homelessness crisis, as well as looking at how we're addressing our anti-poverty work through the Department of County Human Services, and linking that work, frankly, with what the county can do around workforce opportunity through its transportation projects, in addition to other local infrastructure projects, and actually help people move out of poverty and into a place of thriving. I also believe there's gaps that we can close in our criminal justice system where we can stop sending people back to the streets when they enter the jail system and have really clear, concrete goals and plans on how we can stop that revolving door. Those are my top priorities for the county, and I feel really hopeful in the conversations I'm having with my neighbors and small business owners that we want and can be the county that we believe and that is living our values. Thank you.
Thank you. Our first question, and again, these are up to 60 seconds to respond. The first question goes to Mr. Hara. What, if any, changes in the county's policies for addressing the homelessness crisis would you support?
Yeah, the way I think about homelessness is part of our larger livability crisis. I know we've said that word a bunch here, so let me try to define it really quickly. Livability is the ability to live an enriching life. And 1 in 3 homes in Multnomah are unable to meet their basic needs. That means they can't put food on the table, they can't pay their power bill, they can't pay their rent or their mortgage. So when we talk about how we're going to solve homelessness, we need to think about it within that larger context. The policies that we need to be thinking about as a county are about how we are going to actually get housing units. In order to have a housing first policy, which is what we have, we must have housing first. In the next 5 years, we're going to come up 75,000 units shy of what we need to get people in homes. We need to be looking at all options, including public housing, including collaboration with Metro, including collaboration with Portland to get our people in homes.
Thank you. Mr. Adams.
Picking up on the issue of affordable housing, the current chair of Multnomah County opposes using some of the $125 million, which is a 3-county number, above what was forecasted for homeless services. She opposes using that to help build that affordable housing that we need. And so I would change that policy. The second thing is the sobering center. When this drug and alcohol sobering center was opened, it helped 3,000 clients a year. It's been closed almost 4 years. For some reason, the county is continuing to drag its feet, even after 4 years, where first responders don't have anywhere to take people. And relatedly, because first responders for the Fire Bureau, EMTs have to wait around waiting for ambulances when they're called, I would also go with the alternative staffing model for AMR, the county's ambulance contractor.
Thank you. Dr. Richard.
Thank you so much. I think the first policy I would address is really assessing where accountability lies within those policies. Again, I keep saying this, $650 million and the amount of money that we have juxtaposed to the number of individuals who have been housed, the numbers don't match. So first of all, We need to analyze and review the policies that we have in place. Secondly, I would definitely expand and scale up detox centers and sobering centers so that individuals who are out there on the front lines working with individuals can have a place to take folks. And again, affordable housing. Affordable housing is needed on two fronts. One, to get people housed who are currently not housed, but also we need to scale up the initiatives that we have in the county, rent assistance, to keep people from being homeless and look for more affordable housing where these individuals don't have to make a decision between rent and putting food on the table. Thank you so much. I yield back to you.
Thank you. Ms. Singleton.
Thank you. I agree with Sam about the Metro dollars and using some of those funds for affordable housing. I think additionally, my first steps would be to expand policies and programs that I created and have proven to be very successful, including our mental health street outreach team that is only 6 staff to cover the whole county. And additionally, the mobile permanent supportive housing team that I created while at Join that has over a 95% housing retention rate. We need to take what we know works and expand it and replicate it. And that's something that I can do immediately.
Thank you. On to question number 2. And our next question goes to Dr. Richard.
Do I answer that first question?
Oh, I'm so sorry.
That's
Yes.
Okay.
My mistake right here. Ms. Burke, will you please answer the question number 1?
Yes. So some of the top priorities I think we need to focus on are a central database of available shelter beds. Right now, we don't have access to that information, so we can never know at any given time if there's a bed available for somebody. I tell people it's hotel software. The software already exists, and the ability to feed it into a central database so that it's available to even someone looking that's chronically homeless living outside is critically important. Even Portland Street Response has started asking for this because they have virtually no tools when they do come to help someone. I do think we need to expand who's eligible to receive county dollars to assist. Right now, organizations that have any religious affiliation are disqualified. So places like Blanchet House, one of the most successful organizations, does not qualify. I totally support sobering centers, but specifically, you cannot be high on methamphetamine and roaming the streets with a machete and aggressive, or pass out on fentanyl that's unsafe for those individuals. And lastly, we need to prioritize the SHS dollars, the supportive housing service dollars, to provide actual supportive housing in any new construction. That's all. Thanks.
Thank you. Question number 2, Dr. Richard. The next commission will be composed mostly of members who have had no prior experience there. What ideas do you have to ensure a productive relationship among these new legislators?
Thank you so much for the question. I think collaboration is always on the table and the order of today. I think also when you look at collaboration, you have to look at how you build relationships. And when you talk about building relationships, you have to talk about how you build trust with one another. Just because we haven't worked together before doesn't mean we cannot be effective once we join the Multnomah County Board of Commissioners to do the work of the individuals that elected us to serve in those positions. So when you talk about collaboration, when you talk about trust, when you talk about relationship, I think that's what is going to be needed in order for the county commission to be effective. And also, how do we build a relationship with the current chair? Given some of the issues that we are currently facing, building relationship, building trust, and then putting the best foot forward together through effective and strategic leadership is going to be key. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Mr. Adams.
Well, the great thing about local government is it is nonpartisan. And so in many ways, the opportunity to look at the lived experience, look at perceptions, and look at the data that's available associated with these problems and opportunities. And as a group, be part of taking that all in, looking at where resources are currently going, what kind of results are we getting from them, and how can we do better. The low public opinion of local government right now, and specifically the county, needs to be improved. And that means coming up with shared understanding, shared solutions, and moving forward on these very serious problems.
Thank you. Ms. Singleton.
Molly, can you please repeat the question? My sound got a little funky there.
Yes, absolutely. The next commission will be composed mostly of members who have had no prior experience there. What ideas do you have to ensure a productive relationship among these new legislators?
Thank you. So I think that, I have, again, the track record of building relationships quickly, whether that's been in my role at the Portland Housing Bureau, my brief time at the county, as well as my time at the state in Governor Kate Brown's office. This is what we did to respond to the multiple crises that we had around COVID-19, the wildfires, we had floods in Umatilla, all at the same time. And we needed to show up and quickly work with local government as well as the state agencies to enact crisis response plans. So I have that track record and will continue to do that and bring that to the county commission. I've additionally worked with both Julia Brim-Edwards as well as had some great conversations with Vince Jones-Dixon. I've worked with Jessica Vager-Peterson. I've worked with a lot of these commissioners and some of the folks who are running. And I'm confident that I'll be able to continue that track record of developing relationships so we can get things done for the people we serve.
Thank you. Ms. Shahara.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to find that any of us are going to say that we shouldn't collaborate. I think the devil is always in the details. How are you going to get it done? One thing I'll point to is that my training is actually in mediation, conflict resolution. I did that for a while as a family mediator. And if that isn't the hardest type of conflict to deal with, I don't know what is. When it comes to how we collaborate and how we work together, fundamentally, it's about building trust. You may not always agree with the way that your counterparts work, but building effective, trusting relationships helps you get things done in new and interesting ways. Yeah, I think that we're all going to struggle with it because it's new, right? Building new relationships with folks is tough at first, and coming at it with a practical idea of what needs to get done, how are we going to get done, and establishing realistic goals is where we're going to thrive ultimately.
Thank you. Ms. Burke?
Yes. So my profession, I like to tell people, is building healthy teams and healthy organizations. And even professionally in college, I was trained and practiced as a team building facilitator. But I think it's also important to note, I was asked to run for this seat by one of our existing county commissioners. And many of the other candidates that are running, we already work on other projects together and have a really collaborative relationship. Vadim Mazursky and I do neighborhood work through Neighbors West Northwest. Vince Jones-Dixon and I have been working on a truth and reconciliation process through his organization Trust Lab. Julia Brim-Edwards and I have already begun collaborating. So I feel very confident in my ability to be a member of a team and how to move that needle in a healthy way.
Thank you. The next question goes to Ms. Burke first. If elected, what is the single most important goal you hope to accomplish as a county commissioner?
I think to provide a good counterpart for the city of Portland. I think that they've been operating and contorting themselves to cover the work that is supposed to be the county's jurisdiction for many years now, and paying for things and providing services that are not actually their responsibility. And I think that I say often the city needs a friend in the county, and that is my single most important priority.
Thank you. Mr. Hara.
If I could get us to establish that trust that I studied actually back when I was in college. The Portland area, the Portland region was seen as a case study for good regional governance, for how things worked. And being here, hearing about how the conflicts that we experience right now is a real disappointment, to be honest. If I were to be able to accomplish one thing, it would be to reestablish that trusting working relationships, that we could actually get back to that space where the area of Portland is seen as, again, a bellwether to how we can do good regional governance.
Thank you. Ms. Singleton.
Thank you. I think similarly, but I would say it's what Nick was sharing, but really I would say it's about restoring the public trust. I think that we need to be able to show up and be serving our community that we've been elected to serve, such that they can tell that we're meeting the outcomes that we set out to meet. We're holding ourselves and our contractors accountable. We're holding accountable our partners across the river at the city and at Metro, and really thinking about this regionally as we address some of our crises. The most important piece to me is that Multnomah County is the social service provider and safety net for our community, and we have failed too many people. And it's time for us to change that and show up to get those things done that we need to get done and restore that public trust. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Adams?
Thanks. The first, on my announcement day for this seat, I talked about the need to spend the $650 million currently spent by Home Forward, the City of Portland, and Multnomah County on homelessness, affordable housing, drug, and mental illness. That is right now being spent in a patchwork basis with scant accountability. That needs to be jointly budgeted, jointly administered, and treated, this issue of homelessness, treated like the humanitarian emergency that it is. In addition to that, we have to have a single system that tracks care for those that are trying to move away from some of these, whether it's homelessness or some illness. Right now, there can be multiple different tracking systems. And I would have a report card every year that is independently produced by the elected auditor that shows what we're doing with that $650 million, what we're getting for it, what kind of outcomes are being achieved and not achieved. That kind of disclosure is what the public wants.
Thank you. Dr. Richard.
Thank you so much. Two things. Well, the most single important thing for me, sort of a 1 and 1A, is accountability and leadership. I think the county has to become accountable to the taxpayers. We have to restore that because, as we heard a couple of the individuals talk here, trust is lacking within the constituents. I know in District 2 and in other districts in terms of how the county and the county leadership is being held accountable for their actions and not meeting their outcomes. And again, the 1A for me is leadership. The county has to get back to a place of providing good, strategic, visionary leadership that is grounded in data, that's grounded in lived experience, that is grounded in qualitative and quantitative data. We cannot just continue to make decisions and not be held accountable, and also not be held accountable for leadership. So for me, accountability and leadership are the 1 and 1A for myself. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Just an audience reminder, you are watching the video of the voter forum of the League of Women Voters of Portland, or listening to our podcast. This is for candidates for the 2nd District of the Multnomah County Commission. Now on to our next question. For Mr. Adams first, what role would you support for Multnomah County to play in addressing the supply of housing in the region?
Well, as I already talked about in one of my answers, the unanticipated, unforecasted excess revenues, a portion of that should go to helping build those affordable housing units that are part of the housing first model. And to, as currently being articulated by the current administration at the county, just saying no to that means that because we can't get a renewal of the housing bond because the public doesn't want to raise taxes at this point. It just means that people, if we succeed at getting people off the street into more stable place where they want and are able to go to permanent supportive housing or affordable housing, and it's not there, what have we achieved? It's got to be a balanced system between services. We also have to have more affordable housing, and this is unanticipated money. We should use some of it to build affordable housing.
Thank you. Ms. Burke.
Yes, I feel the role of the county is to provide the supportive housing services that are needed, and which was the intent of the dollars from the bond measure, the Metro bond measure passed, which is essentially on-site mental health and addiction services for people that need it. It's going to be incredibly difficult to get private sector to build that type of housing, and so I feel that that's the role that the county should be playing. Similarly, I think that we need to be a little more creative in how we're trying to add to supply for affordable housing, not with supportive services, just affordable housing. One of which is that the county needs to consider acquisition, allow private sector to build, and they can acquire at a slightly higher dollar amount per square foot. Any developer, if they had a guaranteed buyer, you could build thousands and thousands of units a year if that was an option.
Thank you. Dr. Richard?
I also agree that the SHS funds should be used to build more affordable housing. I don't think that there's any question there with respect to the role of the county. But I also believe the role of the county is to explore new creative and innovative ways for how we approach housing. We can no longer just sit back and continue to utilize the same strategies that have not worked. I think the county, as along with the SHS funds, I think the county needs to understand how to position itself to be that regional leader. I think we also, the role of the county is how do we provide equity or implement equity rather, and center the voice of those who are most impacted by the issue of homelessness and houselessness. So again, using the funds to create more affordable housing, but as we're doing that, how do we position ourselves as a leader and implement equity and center the voice of those who are most impacted around the issue and bring them to the decision-making table? Thank you so much.
Thank you. Mr. Harden.
Yeah, just to level set again, we're going to come up 75,000 housing units, affordable housing units shy of what we need in the next 5 years. In order to get there, a Metro housing bond is going to get us about 6,000 housing units there, maybe 5. In order for us to think about what solving our housing shortage is going to look like, it's about an all-in strategy. We need to be thinking about every single option on the table. We haven't talked about, nobody else has talked about, at least as far as I can tell, public housing options. That's Section 9 housing. That's not housing vouchers owned by private entities. That is public government-owned properties. We have to talk about the fact that in the area there are 50,000 more housing units than there are households in the Portland metro area, and we have to look to acquiring in every single way possible our more units as quickly as we can. We're already in the hole here.
Thank you. Ms. Singleton.
Thank you. So there's a couple of things that the county does that they should continue to do. One is to do project-based rent assistance that we currently put out the door for permanent supportive housing that is largely developed by our private developer partners. That's in collaboration with the Portland Housing Bureau, and that work should continue. And they also provide the services there. I think additionally, I agree that we should look at the surplus of the Metro SHS funds, but not only for development of new housing, for acquisition as well as land banking opportunities. And then lastly, I think that we need to show up as good partners at the state, as we have done in the past at the county, to ensure that we're looking at opportunities for affordable home ownership, like happened through our IDA programs and the advocacy that has been done to double those savings so that people can actually afford to save and buy homes in our community as well.
Okay, thank you. Next question goes to Dr. Richard first. What, if any, changes in the county's policies concerning addiction treatment and recovery would you support?
Thank you for the question. I think, at this particular juncture, one of the things I would actually look at doing is sort of expanding what we do. I just don't think we have enough staffing. So one of the policy changes would be to look at the county's budget, specifically the budget with the health department and the budget with DCHS, to determine the number of staffing that we have to make sure that there's adequate staffing. The other thing I would do is really look at how are we engaging with our community partners who are actually providing these services. And the next thing I would do in terms of policy is look at the equity piece of it and ensure that I understand and the county understands, how ethnic and diverse communities are also receiving services because they also those. Well, I lost my train of thought, but they also are impacted by mental health crisis and drug addiction. Oftentimes, they don't talk about it. They don't reveal those things. So how do we put more bodies on the ground? How do we put more individuals in place so that we can actually expand and scale up? Thank you so much.
Thank you. Ms. Burke.
Yes. So a couple of things. I think Dr. Richard is right. We are short-staffed on this issue. And one of the things I've talked to our state representatives about is getting funding for locum doctors and nurses, which are traveling doctors and nurses, to help in the short term to fill that gap, which they said they felt like they could get funding for. And I talked to the city about some sort of emergency approval for permitting for facilities like this. Second, we're doing the community a disservice, those that are addicted, with our lack of continuum of care. This is a patchwork model that we're not, the process cannot be that you are taken to the emergency room and then released back to wherever you want to go, and you're just right back at the street. And I think that as much as we can create a holistic process and a holistic intake system, would really, even our social workers at the county are needing help. The last thing we need is a definition for gravely disabled at the state level to assist our social workers.
Thank you. Mr. Hara.
One of the very first Housing First policies was actually about addiction abatement. And mental health services. They found that people who got into homes were far more stable in the long term. So when we talk about our housing issues, we're also talking about better mental health, better addiction services, ultimately. The other thing that I want us to think about is that we have no minimums for how much our contractors are paid when we set our contracts. And the average frontline worker out of JOHS is making less than a living wage here in Portland. That means that their tenure is less than a year. If we want to talk about committing fully to our services, to making sure that we are giving them the best care that we can, then we want to have people who are experienced and not constantly in a state of training. We want people to not feel like they're just going through a system because they're always meeting with a new person because that other person they were working with before has left. I think we have a lot of things that we can be doing.
Thank you. Ms. Singleton.
Thank you. As somebody who has experienced homelessness myself, I know the shame and guilt that comes with that experience and the desire to self-medicate to make that feel different. I think that is something that we frankly underutilize peers who have this lived experience in our system, and I would like to see us expand our peer staffing models and ensure that we're paying them, of course, good wages so that they can also live in this community. Additionally, I'm not necessarily convinced that one sobering center will meet the needs of the county. I think we have to be willing to look at additional facilities. And something I hear from the folks who are running our transitional recovery centers is that people are also stuck there. There aren't places that they can afford to move out of, and effectively they take up treatment beds when they are ready to move on. That's something I think we need to do, is ensure that we're bringing those housing placement dollars and supports so we can open up our existing transitional recovery beds, not only in Portland and the metro region, but also ensuring that the state is adding these types of beds across the entirety of our state.
Thank you. Mr. Adams.
So we can hope for and should advocate for additional resources wherever we can get them. But we do have upwards of $650 million between Home Ford, the city of Portland, and Multnomah County. We needed to dig into that and reprioritize it for what is most important. We do have that. We can do better with that. And resources can be found out of existing budgets to provide for what my fellow candidates have talked about. We have that in our control. It means everyone has to give up a little bit of control in the city and the county and start working on this as the continuum and the system that it should be. And until we're short of that, we are unnecessarily impacting livelihoods, and we are unnecessarily seeing the loss of life.
Thank you. Just confirming that this is our last question, and we're moving now into our closing statements. So now's the time to provide closing statements. And Dr. Richard, I'd like to ask you to go first. Your closing statement, please.
Thank you so much. It was a joy and a pleasure to be here today in the presence of these great candidates and colleagues of mine. For some of them that I didn't get to know, it's been a pleasure to get to know you as I see you at different events. Again, I rest on my 27 years of experience, 23 with the Department of Human Services with the state of Oregon, and the last 4 that I've been with Multnomah County. Again, my experience working at self-enhancement, my experience as a case manager on the front lines, working with individuals who are impacted, who are experiencing the very issues that we are talking about today. I think that positions me to be the candidate of choice. I think it positions me to be the voice, to be the advocate, to be the supporter for those individuals who are experiencing these issues of homelessness, drug addiction, and mental health. But also, again, as I said in my opening, we have to address community safety and livability. We also must ensure that we have accountability for the taxpayer dollars. And we have to remember, we answer to the taxpayers. And, again, when it comes to collaboration, when it comes to relationship building, I've done that all my life, from sports to family, to, again, working over 27 years between the state of Oregon and Multnomah County. So I'm ready. I'm ready to get in there and work. I'm ready to get in there and build relationships. I'm ready to take the issues, to take the voice, to take everything that I'm hearing as I go around this district, bring it into that Hollywood Hall there on Hawthorne Boulevard, roll my sleeves up, and be the person that the people in District 2 need me to be. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure being here.
Thank you. Mr. Adams, you may close.
I join with the doctor in thanking you for putting on this forum. The changes that we need to make will require big changes in very complicated bureaucracies, not just in the county, but getting the cities and county working better together, Home Ford, the state, other organizations. And using the budget that we have, as I've said before, more efficiently, more effectively, more collaboratively. We need and can find additional opportunities, savings, reprioritizing to provide more mental health and drug treatment services that's necessary. I have that background. I have done a number of multi-billion-dollar budgets and have taken on the kind of controversial issues and made change, bringing folks together. The Oregonian looked at a fine group of candidates here, and I'm honored to have won their endorsement. For the reason that I have this record of being able to bring people together and take on these tough issues and make change, I can hit the ground running. So I'd be honored for those of you that are watching this to have your support and your vote on May 21st in District 2.
Thank you. Ms. Burke, you may close.
Thank you. Thanks for having us here today. In closing, my experience is that of a social worker, a teacher, and a small business owner. And I've spent most of the last 4 years as a volunteer community organizer, developing solutions for our elected officials during the greatest economic crisis for my industry in a generation. I've successfully managed over $2 million in capital projects for the city as a volunteer, and lobbied the state legislature to assist with Measure 110, House Bill 1553, making illicit use of drugs on transit illegal. And we even got a $2 million carve out from the state legislature to bring light manufacturing back to Old Town, and a $15 million project to bring the Steelbridge Skate Park to Old Town. I've been a trusted leader for our community, with first responders and even social workers from the county asking for my advocacy assistance. I have the endorsement of firefighters, police, deputy sheriffs, who all know that I understand their experience and will advocate for better tools. And I have support from leaders like Dr. Sharon Myron, Gresham Counselor and County Commissioner candidate Vince Jones-Dixon, and Vadim Mazursky. We're at an inflection point in Multnomah County, and if we want different results, we're going to have to choose different leaders. It's time for a new generation of leadership, and I believe that I represent that change. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Singleton, you may close.
Thank you, and echo the thanks and appreciation for this forum today. I think I've explained well my frontline experience, my track record of getting things done, and what makes me the best candidate for Multnomah County Commissioner District 2. And I ask that you don't just take my word for it. I also have endorsements from the union that represents the majority of Multnomah County employees in AFSCME, as well as SEIU, multiple trade unions, additionally places like Next Up Fund, and lots of progressive and BIPOC focused networks in our community, as well as our state legislative leaders like Representative Maxine Dexter, Representative Travis Nelson, Senator Lou Frederick, and Casey Jama. These are folks who have worked with me throughout my career and my time in Oregon, and have shown up to say that not only am I the candidate who can get this done, but I can get it done quickly and will hit the ground running. Thank you so much, and I hope to get your vote on the 21st.
Thank you. Mr. Hara, you may close.
Yeah, I'll close it out with another thank you. I really appreciate what the League of Women Voters is doing. This is a great forum for them, for people to get information. I started this interview or this forum talking about what's missing, the gap in the way that we think. And none of the questions today, even covered our issues of climate change. We are, in the next 20 years, going to be facing more extreme weather, more extreme situations, and we do not have a plan for that in the region. We are thinking about homelessness as a singular part of a bigger system, and we're missing that larger whole. We have interwoven crises that we need to be looking at, and we need people with the vision to understand that they are not singular. They are not going to be solved, and then we are never going to have a problem again. We need to be prepared for the future. We need to be thinking about how we can transform our economy, our region, into one that is a green, sustainable region with high-paying, union-focused jobs. We need to be talking about how we can have programs that are solving for multiple things: our housing supply, our livability issues. Again, 1 in 3 households in Multnomah are struggling to make ends meet. And I haven't heard that from any of these other candidates here, unfortunately, today. We need to be thinking about systemic solutions to our systemic problems. That's what I'm bringing to the table. I'm bringing a wealth of experience at the national and international level, seeing problems, that crisis response, and how it can hamper us from that future that we all want, that thriving and just Multnomah. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you all so much for participating. This concludes today's voter forum with the candidates for the 2nd District of the Multnomah County Commission. We thank each of the candidates for their participation. Audience members, please share this forum recording and podcast with your family and with your friends. We all need to be informed voters. If you're registered to vote by April 30th, you should receive your ballot by May 6th. As with all Oregon elections, almost all voters will participate by mailing in their ballots only, although in-person voting is available. Check your Multnomah County voters pamphlet online or when the paper copy arrives by mail at your household. To be counted, ballots must be postmarked by Tuesday, May 21st at 8:00 p.m. You can also find an official ballot drop box location near you by checking www.vote411.org or in the Multnomah County Voters Pamphlet. The League of Women Voters is a nonprofit membership organization. We hope this forum was meaningful to you. We welcome you to join or contribute at lwvpdx.org. This is Molly Keating for the League of Women Voters of Portland. Thank you for watching and listening, and for being an informed voter. And remember, your vote counts.